What's up? Got some people waiting today. Cool. Oh man, my hair's doing hair stuff. It's alright. Welcome to my live broadcast. For those who don't know me, my name is Bruce Venture. It's not my real name, but anyways, quick disclaimer. I'm not a medical professional. Nothing I say is intended as health advice. Any major changes you make to your diet or any other. Sorry, guys. We had a little hiccup there. Good old technology. Anyways, as I was saying, I am not a medical professional. Nothing I say is intended as health advice. Any major changes you make to your diet or any other aspect of your lifestyle, something you check with a doctor with before enacting in your own life. I'm also not a financial advisor. Nothing I say is a recommendation for investment. And lastly, but most importantly, I am a law-abiding citizen. Nothing I say is an admission of guilt. All that being said, we are here for our stream about the cosmic flow, how to read the signs, so to speak, and why flexibility matters. Because let's just face it, if you're rigid and unadaptable, then what does it matter if you can read the signs, because you can't react to them or do anything with it. That being said, there we go. I guess that's like a slightly better hair situation. Good morning, Jennifer. Sam's doing well too. He doesn't realize that he's doing so well, but he's doing so well that he just can't get over the fact that there's not an unlimited supply of flesh for him to consume nonstop. So he's just pouting. He knows there's a half of a chicken in the back, and he doesn't want to wait till lunchtime. But aside from that, I think he's doing well. Well, how to read the signs? Any personal example? Yes, actually, in fact, there is a personal example. So recently I was in Oregon. I'm no longer there. I got up there, and it was just basically everything that like drew me up there initially really just didn't work out as I wanted. And I was, it was just kind of, but yet at the same time, nothing was slowing me down to get there. Everything lined up perfectly to get there. So I knew that I needed to go. I knew that I needed, there was nothing to divert me from the process, the somewhat expensive process of relocating myself. So I packed up all my stuff for a long-term move, and I went up there, and everything was smooth getting there. And then everything started, it wasn't going badly. It was just that, the initial reason why I was going there kind of evaporated in front of my feet. I mean, in front of my eyes. And it did it in a way that was gentle, but not without a slap in the face, right? And so, nonetheless, I didn't pick up on that right away, because I knew that I had been up there for a reason, And I'm not going to put anyone else's personal business out on YouTube, but the reason did eventually show itself. And I do believe that I was in the place where I was meant to be at the moment when I was meant to be there. However, it was not for my own benefit. It was to help a dear friend. And so, at the moment when that came apparent, that was the reason, and it was completed, I, started getting the repeating numbers all of a sudden, and not only that, but a route back to undo everything, to undo the trip also appeared, because that was my initial concern, was that I was feeling a little like I got myself stuck in a situation. And that happened all at the exact moment when I had a full gas tank, when I filled up my gas tank. I mean, it might seem simple, but I mean, there's probably, I guess, more to it than that. But just as a quick, thing. And then, so I just started driving, right? I initially had a different plan for my driving. I wasn't going to go all the way back to where I started, but, I started driving, and, driving for me is kind of like a meditation. Like I like to chant while I do it, and, just kind of, lock in, enjoy the scene. It was a beautiful scenery, right? And I started kind of, thinking about how few places in the world that I've really felt content. And then I started thinking about what I was really after, right, when I was headed up there. And then I started thinking about the fact that there was, or it just suddenly dawned on me that there was a much, much easier way to obtain the thing which I was initially after. Not only that, but that there was a much lighter commitment that I was able to, or that I will be able to, now that I see the path unfolding before me, act upon, right? And the reason why all this was able to happen, and that I'm able now to act upon a completely new plan in such a short amount of time, 1,000 miles away from where I was just at, is all due to the fact that I have very little constraints, and I can kind of, just take all this as it comes. And this isn't like, I'm not like necessarily recommending that anyone live their life like I live my life, but it is food for thought. Are we having any connection? How's our connection doing? Because I'm on a Wi-Fi, and I do notice that the viewer count is fluctuating somewhat rapidly. Let me go to the chat and say, good morning, Angelica. Asher Gray, good to see you. Good morning. Asher Gray says, there's so many signs from the universe that we oftentimes overlook due to the plethora of man-made distractions set up before us. Thank you, Asher. This is an amazing point, which I clearly missed. But yes, the distractions, that's a big part of it. If you put your phone down, and not just put it down, turn it off. Fucking turn it off. And you just start paying attention to everything going on around you, it doesn't just talk to you. The universe doesn't talk. I mean, it interjects into basically every aspect of your life. If you really just react to it, and not in like a crazy way, like, whatever, but if you're willing to let it carry you, just let it carry you. It just becomes very, very apparent. Like, I probably didn't really explain all that perfectly well. It was a little rushed, and there's really no way to like put something like that into words, because let's face it, the universe doesn't use words. It uses people, it uses patterns, it uses friction, you know. It basically, it's the shepherd. The universe is your shepherd. And you just got to notice when one gate closes and the other gate opens. If, just like you start hearing the metaphorical dog yapping, and you could sit around and wait till it decides to bite your heels, right? And then get moving. Or you could just look for an exit. Just look for an exit from whatever situation or whatever you're doing or whatever you're in. Just go through the open gate. There always is one. You know what I'm saying? It's just whether or not, you are willing to change and adapt. And yeah, it's really just all comes down to flexibility. Anyways, let's see. Back to the chat. Angelica says, are repeating numbers something to actually trust, or do you think it's just coincidence? I mean, I consider that it's a coincidence up to some level, but it's when it like if you just see them, or if you're just seeing them on your clock. But it's like if you see, like, them everywhere and they're coinciding with things you're hearing and doing and everything else. To me, the way I look at that is like, in the Matrix, which is a really good example of like spiritual stuff, like when they're reading the screen with the green and they're like in the real world, but Neo's in the Matrix, and they're like, I don't know, he's doing Neo stuff, like, and then it shows Neo like flying around and all that. That's how I look at the numbers thing. It's like when you're manifesting super strong, then I don't necessarily think the numbers are like trying to tell you stuff, themselves. And I don't believe in like, these numbers mean this, and this number means this, and this number means this so much. But I do believe that when the simulation or the Matrix or whatever you want to call it, the dream, the game, whatever your version of describing this illusion, starts adapting to you personally, then I feel like that's just something that starts happening. And it's not just the numbers, it's like all types of weird glitches in the Matrix, just start happening because, and it's usually going to be when you're alone, you know what I mean? Because the illusion, the Matrix, is adapting to us all simultaneously. So when you're in a populated area, especially if you're in an area around people that have opposing viewpoints or opposing beliefs, or around people that specifically are not, open spiritually, like the really, really like horribly, detached people, then it has trouble adapting to you. Now, of course, if you're like, so wildly connected that you're on like some Neo status, maybe it can, do that. And that's maybe the kind of situation, whatever. But it also probably depends. There's a lot to it. But I like, for me, I just take it as a sign that manifestation is working properly, that it's acting really strong. And again, it's not just the numbers, but the numbers and stuff are like an easy example that people do notice. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you're just staring at the clock all day, every day, of course you're going to catch every set of repeating numbers, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's totally different. But, but when, like, for example, the thing I wrote on Instagram earlier, like was at 11:11 on the 1st. I deleted that like 20 times, like a bunch of different versions of that, and I was like on the fence about posting it because I didn't want to like whatever. But then like at the moment when I finally finished writing it and I was like about to not post it, I looked at the time when I like had saved it and it had all the ones across the top. I'm like, you know what? That's a sign to post it. So I posted it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what effect that will have, but I'm just trusting it. Or like yesterday I was driving and, you know, the mileage that I had left on my gas tank was the same as the time. And then like I refilled my tank and or I don't know, something else happened. And then as the clock ticked down, tank went up and then it like recrossed past again to where the time and the mileage was again the same because I was using the military time or whatever. Anyways, it's I'm probably saying that wrong, but anyways, like really weird like things, and it's just like the whole way down. It's like, okay, you're synced, you know. I don't know. I might be overthinking it, but this is how I operate. You know what I'm saying? So, it is what it is. Jesse Vlogs, good to see you. It's been way too long. Jesse says, stopping by to say hi. It's been a while. Always wishing you well. I see your locks and your hair. We'll be getting jealous if it gets better than mine. Keep on your journey. I'm proud of your growth. Bye. Well, it's good to see you. Thank you so much. Yeah, you know, it's been a long process. There's like one little patch left right here that's kind of still doing its thing, these ones, but they're starting to do it. Like this one's, I got a new one going right here, and I think this one might be doing something too. This whole thing will end up probably coming together and turn into one, but it takes a long time. But yeah, yours are amazing. I don't think you'll ever have to be jealous. It's I can't imagine that it'll ever quite be that neat, but we'll see. I did a hot oil soak recently, so I haven't quite got, it hasn't quite, got back to normal, but it was getting like super dry, so I just had to do it. So it's got like a lot of olive oil in it right now. Here's a good question. Raphael says, how does the ecstasy and bliss you experience from your spiritual ventures compare to the sense pleasures you experienced during your movie era? It doesn't compare at all, to be honest. Sex is great, and it's really good if you've never experienced anything better than that. But the amplitude, of what is available with, we'll call it spiritually, it's a completely different level. And so let's just get into this for a second. The pudendal nerve is a big nerve, and it's a big nerve that's surrounded by soft tissue. And, that being the fact that it's surrounded by soft tissue, makes it easy to manipulate, right? Makes it easy to manually stimulate the pudendal nerve, right? And that is by design, so that we can achieve orgasm, which achieves copulation and, continues on to reproduction of our species, right? And that's good. But the thing is that any nerve really can have, that level of excitement. Well, there's way bigger nerves in your body than the pudendal nerve. There's the vagus nerve, and there's the spinal column itself, not to mention the 12 cranial nerves, and even the brain as a whole. You know what I'm saying? Like each different segment of the brain also falls into this category. Now, of course, the brain is the hardest one to stimulate. Why? Because it's completely encased by your skull. You can't really do much in there. How do you stimulate your brain inside your skull? That's how. Okay? So if you want to have a braingasm, that's how you do it. But even sex could also do it because your spine can also do it. And the pudendal nerve is attached to the spine. So if you have a strong enough orgasm in the pudendal nerve, it can trigger one in the spine, and the spine can in turn trigger one in the brain. This is what they call Kundalini awakening. If you can make that gasm, and it doesn't have to start in the pudendal nerve, it does need to start in the spine. And if you can get that to connect all the way up the spine and trigger your brain, your full brain, this is what's called a Kundalini awakening. And that triggers a cascading chain reaction in your body where basically you get like major like neuroplasticity and extended innervation to all your various organs and glands and so on and so forth. And so the spine, this is actually very on point. The spine is is obviously the largest. The spine, and I guess also the vagus nerve, are the largest nerves, which are easier to manipulate, are easier to manually stimulate, right? And this is where we get what's called Kundalini yoga, right? Kundalini yoga is essentially the masturbation of the spine and or the vagus nerve, right? And it's particularly the vagus nerve because it's not encased in a bony shell. Of course, your spine is something you can stimulate as well, but you need to really be working on your mobility and your spinal health in order to be able to achieve that without hurting yourself. So it's the more dangerous version. It's a very dangerous way of going about it. The vagus nerve inherently wants to travel to the brain because it's just the way, like, you know, both the spine and the vagus nerve are two-way connections. But the vagus nerve primarily is running from your organs and your glands to your brain. That's its main job, is to be feeding constant feedback from all your organs and all your glands and all your body to your brain, so that your brain can process all that and do whatever it's got to do in your pituitary and so on and so forth, right? You know, the spine is doing the opposite of that, right? It's mainly controlling everything, your movements, so on and so forth. So it's mainly like a downflow thing. Now, if you are able to reverse that or so on and so forth, whatever, however it ends up working, you can light them both up at the same time. And the vagus nerve is a little bit easier to stimulate as well because it's not encased in a shell in your spinal column. And so, you know, when we talk about like chakra activation, and by the way, whoever sent that thing earlier, I thought somebody sent. Thank you guys for sending. Oh, Franketta, thank you so much for the rotisserie chicken. And Noi, thank you so much also as well for your donation. You guys, I did turn on this like earning goal today. If we do reach it, I'll go ahead and run another stream tomorrow. Otherwise, it'll be next week. Also, if you, yeah. So now all of like now there's also, you know, when they talk about chakra activation, what you're talking about is basically orgasm of some sort. That's how I think of it. Or a major arousal of like a gland or an organ or a set of glands or organs. That's, most people associate like the root chakra with the adrenal glands. Though some people do flip it and associate it with, the testicles and the ovaries or whatnot. The sacral chakra, most people, like I said, it can be flipped, but most people consider it, attached to the sexual organs, right? The solar plexus chakra is associated with your, major organs inside your body, like your digestive tract, your liver, so on and so forth. And then, of course, the heart chakra. Heart chakra is associated with the heart, but what I've noticed, where I feel the sensation myself, is directly above my heart. Also, as I had mentioned in the past, when I had that heart chakra activation, it was the feeling of health, like flowing through me. Like I felt like completely rejuvenated in some kind of way. Well, directly above your heart is what's called the thymus gland. Okay, now this is a gland that starts off bigger when you're a child, and it shrinks over time. It atrophies. And this is why people's immune systems go down. They eventually get cancer and whatnot when they get old, because of the atrophy of the thymus gland. I don't think, personally, they try to say in science that that's natural. But I personally think that it's by design, that our thymus glands are being poisoned by our environment that we live in modern society. And so, when you activate your heart, what you're doing is you're activating your thymus. Well, your thymus is responsible for your immune system, and it produces white blood cells and whatnot. And so this is why you feel completely rejuvenated when you activate your thymus, because when you activate your thymus, you get it to regenerate and reverse the atrophy, right? Then you get up to the throat chakra, right? This is your thyroid gland. I'm sure most people are aware that your thyroid gland is responsible for all kinds of things with your metabolism and whatnot. And the thymus is controlled by nerves coming from the brain, and also with chemicals coming from your pituitary gland. So this is why, the heart is considered like the gateway between the upper and lower chakras. I'm saying, like, it's both, because, I'm saying, on one side, it's connected throughout your entire body, basically. But it is also connected to one of these major upper glands that are, to some level, influenced by your brain, by your pituitary, by the release of signaling, what do you call them, peptides and whatnot. So then they talk about, the throat chakra, the third eye chakra, and the crown chakra, all considered like the spirit element chakras, right? And that's because essentially they're all controlled within the head, right? And so, as far as sensation goes, all of these upper chakras from the heart up, and even your whole spine, and definitely every different segment of your brain is, if you can stimulate that into arousal, and possibly even, as I call it, a gasm, which I have done with basically all of them. I can tell you the level of pleasure is dramatically exceeding the best orgasm that you could ever possibly have in the traditional fashion, even in the adult industry with very skilled people there. There's really not even a remote comparison. And for me now, since I've, a lot of this all happens mentally. This is why, like, one of your, as a man, or even I guess as a woman, like one of your, in my opinion, like best opening practices to learn to activate all chakras, or any chakra, or anything, is to learn to bring yourself to just a regular traditional orgasm, but without any stimulation physically. Mind. Whatever methods you got to obtain, you know what I'm saying? Of course, it was something that I already had to learn to do in the business. And so, through semen retention and other, practices and meditation, so on and so forth, I've learned to easily bring myself to that, using simply just my mind, just meditation, right? But when you do that, it's because you have a supreme awareness of that organ, of the nerves in that organ, and not just that organ specifically, like, the part that most people are saying, but, your actual testicles or your ovaries in this regard. Once you know you can bring your attention to that, and if you get good enough at that, you can bring it into like a full state of arousal. Now, the same thing will happen with all your other chakras. You can do the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, if I want to activate my heart chakra, I don't think about my heart that's beating. I think about my thymus right here. I think about the place where I felt the sensation when that happened. You know what I'm saying? Like, the throat is really easy for me because my thyroid becomes aroused rapidly because I know exactly where to bring my attention. You know what I'm saying? Another, little trick is, like, I find that the armpits are somehow weirdly attached to the heart and the thymus as well. So you can bring your attention to your armpits, and that also helps activate your heart, so on and so forth. And the same with the upper ones. There's like a clear, basically, there's 3 different areas of my brain that I can feel really acutely. The primary one is in the back of the head. And, I basically am always all day long, like, doing twists and, working on my spine, and just constantly, I'm basically masturbating my spine in some sense. I don't know if that's the proper word, but self-stimulating my spine all day, because I'm always twisting, trying different, anything I could do. And, like, I haven't never learned traditional yoga. I'm just, like, making it my own, right? But I've also had activation in the front that's made me very aware of my frontal lobe. And I can meditate on that, and it will make my brain work in a completely different way. Not only that, but it's really pleasurable sensation you feel in the front of your head. But, if I want to, I don't know, use certain types of, like, visualization that I can't always do, it's like it opens up a completely different level of, like, ability to visualize and plot things out in your head when you activate this frontal lobe. And I can do that by meditating on that as well. And sometimes it'll last for days on end after you activate that. And it can, in some of these organs or chakras and so on and so forth, it's also, again, like, I mean, it can last for even weeks when you get a good, strong activation. So, it's really hard to compare, the brief moments of pleasure that comes from sex with, something that can be lasting for hours, or even days, or even weeks in some cases. You know what I mean? And the more that you work on all this stuff, the more you will feel a constant, like, basically all the time. Like, I can just, like, flex my back in certain ways, certain orders, right? And I can get it livened up to where all day long I'm going to be feeling a pleasure sensation coming all the way from my sacrum and up my spine into the back of my head and even through my eyes. Because remember, the optic nerve is another huge nerve, right? And that's all connected into the optic thalamus and so on and so forth. And when you do the part of the chant, or you could just do that alone, you can deflect that up into that part of your brain with your tongue, pulling your tongue back, right? Kind of touching the roof of your mouth a little bit. And then, not only that, but eventually, I mean, I don't know how it is for everybody, but there's also some channels that ended up opening up inside your, like your sinus cavity, that connect to your tonsils, right? And so you can actually get a weird thing where you basically get some kind of weird secretion to come out of your tonsils, and you when you swallow that, it's like some kind of a drug. Like it gets you like really, 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 really up there, right? And it's kind of gross because like at first, like it's like, you know, plugged up with something. It takes a while to actually like get those channels to fully open. And they always say, and it's just crazy how like, you know, the doctors are really just out here maiming people, you know, they remove people's tonsils because they get inflamed or whatever when they're kids. And then come to find out later on, just through my own experiences, that, you know, those are like connecting directly into your sinus and as such your brain. And that's a way that your body, your brain is able to, you know, sometimes it, for whatever reason, probably because, I assume, maybe because it needs the reaction with some chemical in your gastric, you know, be it the saliva, pepsin, whatever, stomach acid, hydrochloric acid, whatever is present somewhere in your digestive tract, that it needs that for the reaction. So instead of it secreting directly into your bloodstream, it secretes through your tonsils, and then that goes down and then reacts with whatever's going on in your stomach and creates some type of effect there. So there's like, you know, and again, this isn't even something that I've ever read anywhere or learned anywhere. I literally like figured all that part out myself. Yeah. And then, you know, it's also just, it's important to be conscious. I'm probably getting like too far off topic now and whatever, but be conscious of like your nostrils. Like you really want to try to keep them both open. You know, a lot of times one is dominant over the other one, but you can learn little tricks with your body to keep them both open. And if you can get them to be equally both expressed, that's a good sign that it's a good time to try to activate whatever that is that does the tonsil thing. So another interesting thing, or just point is, and again, I'm not a doctor or medical professional, but don't let these motherfuckers touch you. They don't have any fucking clue what they're talking about. All these highly educated people that fucking whatever, like they've been taught lies. They're just fucking educated monkeys that are doing their same fucking, like not all of them, you know what I'm saying? There are some, but like for the most part, like I don't trust fucking doctors at all myself. You do whatever you want. I'm just saying, I'm not a medical professional, but I don't fucking trust them. I won't let them fucking touch me. These people are fucking idiots. They want to take my tonsils out when I was a kid. I would have fucking missed out on this whole thing if they did that. They're fucking maiming people, you know. And the dentist as well, fucking horrible. Giving people fucking fluoride, mercury fillings, like psychiatrists, fucking butchers. Anyways, I guess that probably hurt my algorithm, but it's okay. Why not? I blew up Instagram again the other day, so. Proax has got a good comment. She says, Maya says, being able to see and read signs is another level of communication with the universe. yourself. It's a talent. And yes, it is, because it's easy to get lost in the rabbit hole and like start seeing shit that's not there and imagining stuff and coinciding and like looking for signs, but you don't want to look for it. Because here's the thing is like I said, it's forceful and gentle at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Like it's the shepherd. It's a shepherd. It opens the gate, and it's your job to realize when you see an open gate and go through it. Go through the fucking gate. You know what I'm saying? If you don't go through the gate, then they send the dogs on you. You know what I'm saying? And the first, the dog just barks at you a little bit, and then if you're go through the gate. But if you don't go through, if you're still just standing there like what's going on? Like everything's pointing in this direction, but I'm just gonna stand here because I'm scared. I got fear. You know what I'm saying? Then what happens? It bites. The dog bites you. You know what I'm saying? Bites you on, first it gives you a little nip on the heel, and if you still don't start moving, then it snags your whole foot. You know what I'm saying? Eventually you get the point. You know what I mean? But your level of comfort, your level of suffering, your level of ease into whatever it's trying to get you to do is all dependent upon your ability to react to it and actually get the sign. It's not going to stop. It's not just going to be like, no, okay, it's cool. Like, and we have free will. That's the whole point. That's why the lessons repeat themselves over and over and over again. That's why it's persistent. Okay, it's changing because sometimes you do miss the window, but whatever it was trying to accomplish, it will find another way to accomplish because it's just perfection. Like, you can't ignore it. Or you can ignore it, but it will continuously repeat over and over and over and over again until you get it. You have to break every cycle. And that's basically my rant for now. Let's see. Welcome, Anna. Good to see you. Angelica O says, I saw recently that repeating numbers could mean a glitch in the system too. It's like a universe telling you that software is being updated and jumping realities. I thought that was interesting. That's exactly what it is. It's a fucking simulation. They've proven, supposedly they've proven through some experiment that like photons, for example, behave completely differently if you're looking at them or if you're not looking at them. You know, like, to me, this is like also similar to like the whole flat earth thing. It's like, you know, if you're looking at it, it's round, but if you're down on the ground level, it's flat because it doesn't fucking exist if no one's looking at it. You know, it just prints out in front of you as you walk, like in a video game, you know, when you're on a new map or whatever and your character's going, it's all black everywhere, but as you pass each spot, like, it's like uncovers the map and you can now see that part. You know, it's like that. It just doesn't fucking exist unless it's being observed, you know. But if you're receptive to your observations, then it doesn't try to hide from you because it's only trying to preserve like your concept that this is all real. You know what I'm saying? If you're of the type of mind that can't, you know, fathom or can't digest, or, you know, that you're mentally incapable of grasping the reality that you're living in an illusion, then it will protect you by not showing you. You know what I'm saying? It wants to keep your reality good. It's just like in the Matrix again. Like, it's like, you know, when Morpheus is telling him about the Matrix, and he's like, you know, most of the people here are not ready to wake up. Worse than that, you know, the lady in red scene, he's like, worse than that, they will fight to defend it. They will fight to defend their illusion. You know, that's just what it is. Like, people don't want to wake up. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're having their own experience that they're meant to have. You know what I'm saying? Like, they haven't, you know, it takes many, many, many lifetimes to get to the point where you can take it for what it really is, and that you can accept the fact that while you are in an illusion and none of this is real, you also can't escape it, because that's part of the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no time outside of here. Time is only in here. So, it's like, to us, from our perspective, it seems like, 1,000 lifetimes. That sounds like so much. But that happens instantly in another dimension. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just our awareness that is going to any one of the quantum paths of where everything is happening. But as you attune your vibration, be it positive or negative or whatever, you fall into, your awareness tunes to what you're ready to accept. You know what I'm saying? Your awareness attunes to it. You know what I mean? Why is it like that? Because it's fucking, if you came in here knowing what you really are and what you're really capable of, it wouldn't be a challenge, and it also wouldn't be fun, and it wouldn't be an escape, because what you're doing by coming here is you're escaping the reality that you are eternal. You know what I'm saying? You're coming to have the experience of a moment, for a minute, that, it's just more exciting this way. You know what I'm saying? But you don't get to just escape, because on another level, the you that knows everything going on wants these lessons. You came here on purpose to have the reason. So, if you check out, you just check back in. It's just a fucking loop, and you got to do it over and over and over again until you get it, till you learn all the lessons. Whatever you've set for yourself. But it's a different self, a self that actually has access to all of the memories of all of your lives. So there's no way out. You just have to accept it. And once you accept it, it will mold itself to your experience. And if you know that it's an illusion, it won't hide from you. I feel like I missed somebody. Who else sent something? Sorry. Thank you again for the rotisserie chicken. Zana, hello, good to see you. You're on a train underground, connection is unstable. I'll see you in 20 minutes. You're still broadcasting. Oh, sounds like a plan. I will see you there. And looks like, and Zana's got the green badge now too. Good to see you, Noi. We got 2 green badgers in the building. That feels like a good sign of our progress. Raphael says, I love how thoroughly you research the anatomy behind the nerves. Yeah, it's a lot more interesting to like neuroscience is a lot more interesting when you can like feel these things, when you're not just like, hey, yeah, like I got a body, here's my arm, here's my head, like, but like when you start really like feeling what's going on inside yourself, like I didn't know that the thymus was above your heart until I started looking. I looked at the, into anatomy, because I felt that there. I was like, I didn't really feel that directly in my exact heart. Like I felt it like slightly above it, and at the same time in my throat, and it was like beating back and forth. But it wasn't like in my heart itself. Of course, my heart was like, I felt it like feeding the health into the rest of my body, like coming from here into my heart and then pumping through my body is what I felt. But I didn't, I didn't fucking know. And then sure enough, there it is. I'm like, well, that makes a lot of sense. Oh, yep, it sure does. It's like, at the time when it happened, I was like, it was pumping health. Then I go and I read up, I see there's a thymus there. It's like, it's responsible for your white blood cells and like everything else. I'm like, wow, what are the odds? Have a good day at work, Anna. Talk to you later. Chad says, I want to say love all your videos back in the day. Well, good to see you, Chad. I'm glad you enjoyed them. I hope that you'll be able to enjoy this new content as well. Sam, no. Stop it. And JS Martinez, good to see you as well. Welcome to our chat. Looks like we lost everybody here. I'm not sure. Maybe there's a connection problem or something. Maybe people just aren't into this specific rant. But we made it almost an hour. Thank you, everyone, for contributing. It doesn't look like we probably are going to reach the goal, but it's okay. Does anyone have any questions, comments, anything you want to talk about before I dip out of here? Because, yeah, like I said, we made an hour. Looks like the chat collapsed, but perhaps there will be some action on the recording. We'll see. Sam seems to be a little warm as well. Let's get him some. Sam, you got a rotisserie chicken and kisses from Auntie Maya. You're doing well today, Sammy. You're loved. Is it? Are we calling it? Maya, how is the connection since you're still here? I'm just curious if it's the connection, if I'm like saying too many weird keywords for YouTube to let the stream get out, or what?
I don't know. I do my best 3 hours. I can't do more than 3 hours because at the end of those 10-hour fixes.
All right, guys. Oh, we got some people coming back. It's 4 people. Connection is great. Yeah, well, if it's 4 people, it's fine, but it's got to be 4 people talking is the thing. Too many stimulation of YouTube spot G. Yeah, true. Jennifer says it's great as well. Well, yeah, I think that's probably it. I think I probably mentioned stimulation and orgasm and even in a very educational sense, masturbation. So I guess hopefully YouTube recognizes that this is a that this is an educational broadcast and that we are talking about human anatomy, and in doing that, in the exploration of neuroscience and the connection between neuroscience and spirituality, that we wanted to be direct with the things that we're talking about in the educational sense, and that we don't have alternative words for these things. So Noy says, this question is from the last stream. What is my definition of balance? You guys, when I'm streaming, I more or less am, letting stuff kind of flow through me. When I'm answering a lot of the questions, to be honest, I don't consciously commit everything that I say to memory. I don't actually even remember what I was streaming about on the last stream. So as I can definitely, I see balance in all things, and balance is an extremely important aspect of everything in my life, and even in my interactions and how I choose people to associate with, and so on and so forth. But that being said, if you could narrow that down and expand on what you mean and what I was talking about in the last stream that you want me to elaborate on now, or what aspect of balance, I'm happy to do that, because it's something that means a lot to me, but I don't remember the last stream. So, And I don't understand your comment either, Prowax. I I don't get that. But connection is good. Jennifer also has a great question, or Noi has a great question of balance. And Jennifer's curious about that as well. Okay, so what are we talking about with the balance thing, you guys? And Maya, I love you, but I don't know what we're talking about with that last thing. We're just going to omit that one. Say those words to check YouTube. Oh, to like make, if I say all the wokeness keywords, you're saying that they'll let my they'll let my scientific exploration of neuroscience and associated terminology stand. Yeah, I'll double the audience. Yeah, I'll double the audience and the exposure. They'll amplify my thing. I just got to like make sure that I tell everybody they should take artificial hormone blockers and oh yeah, you know, definitely psych meds, you know, lots of those, especially it, you know. Yeah. Can't forget the antidepressants, more fluoride. Yeah, I mean. Yeah, all that. I want to make a funny comment, but I don't really. I was gonna, I'm not gonna go there. Don't do this to me, Maya. You're gonna get me in trouble on multiple levels, not just with YouTube. But yes, I'll try to be more woke in the future. It's just that my awakeness is. Yeah, I gotta get some really. It's okay. I don't need that energy. I'm actually, you know what, now, you know what, Maya, Angelica, you guys have really just made me realize that I'm actually happy with the small group. I don't need more people there. It's fine. I always I feel like also too, like a lot of people when they show up and they realize they can't chat without being a subscriber, but and they just leave. But it's like, is it that hard to just subscribe? It doesn't cost nothing. Yeah, we don't need the negativity. But I am curious about this balance thing. What are we talking about with what's my definition of balance? Well, let me just say I do have some words that I've created, some wisdom which I use a lot in regards to balance. Sam, are you okay, bud? What are you doing? Oh, you're just after your ball. Let's start off with this. Let's talk about what balance is not. Okay. And especially since we're getting into these, like, we're joking about the whole wokeness thing, but this applies to all that. This applies to politics. This applies to relationships between people. This applies to sexuality. This applies to dynamics between men and women. This applies to parenting, and this applies to so many aspects in life. And in my personal and humble opinion, it is extremely important to realize that balance is not symmetry. Symmetry is also not balance. You know what I'm saying? Two things do not need to be the same to create balance. In fact, two things being the same don't create balance at all. Two things being the same tips the scales to one side. Balance is about complementary things. One thing can be small and dense. Another thing can be light and fluffy. You know, and can balance perfectly. You know, people tend to want everything to be equal. But the thing is that everything already is equal in nature. Nature has already perfected everything. And we as humans throw everything out of balance. Every rule, every law, every thing that we do, every aspect of society that we create that doesn't mirror nature creates imbalance in my observation. And so for me, balance is anything that is free flowing and reciprocal, that it is able to complement things that are able to complement each other, things that create a cycle, you know, perpetual motion. You know what I'm saying? Perpetual motion is balance. You know, and symmetry rarely achieves that. So don't look for a mirror in anything. Don't look for a mirror in a partner. Don't look for a mirror in society. Don't look for a mirror anywhere except for an actual mirror. And when you're looking in a mirror, let the thing that you're looking at be yourself. Because symmetry is not balance. Symmetry is an illusion. Symmetry is a mirror. Nothing is the same. And yet, it's all one. So, anytime that something is out of balance, it is because somebody manipulated something against nature. So, that's my definition of balance. I hope that was a good one. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Noy says, so how are things going? How's the fasting? Well, the fasting is a lifestyle for me. It doesn't really I won't consider it to be going better or worse until I break a new record of some sort. And I haven't broken any records lately, but you know, I am thinking that will happen soon because I have adapted to being in a state where I am primarily fasting. I'm mostly fasting most of the time. You know, I find that 2 meals a day, no matter what time that you have them, is for me personally not fasting. For me, the maximum amount of time which, you know, I will allow myself to eat in a single day is like in a window of about 4 hours. And I consider that the absolute like starting point and basic level, the lowest level of fasting for my own personal standards. But I am currently trying to, I keep failing on breaking this this record for my dry fast, and so I'm reapproaching the problem by temporarily setting that goal to the side and trying to adapt to every other day total dry fast. And so that's kind of my current part of my progress. But I did see your thing in the chat. I'm really super proud of you that you were able to achieve your goal for Ramadan and everything. I think that's amazing, and I'm sure that it feels amazing for you as well. I'm more curious, how do you feel after achieving that? Jennifer Ann says, I think she just wanted your definition of balance in general and spirituality. In general and spirituality, well, with spirituality, balance and spirituality, I struggle with that. Spirituality has more or less like replaced my addictions and become like a new addiction in some sense. And I don't necessarily know that that is balance. Sometimes I'm telling myself maybe I need to, add something on to the scales on the other side, because it's kind of become it's all encompassing in my life now. But it hasn't let me down yet. So, and I don't really foresee that it ever will. And so, for me, like, sometimes I wonder, I mean, I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. That's a stumper for me. I'll have to ponder on that. Maybe we'll do another stream dedicated to that after I've had some time to. Proax says, I'm so confused after a month of fasting, ignoring food, even though fasting is over. Subconscious discipline within a month. Fantastic. And Proax says, let's do it all together, Bruce. What's your goal? I'd be happy to join or even challenge you. My goal is a 4-day dry fast, or 100-hour dry fast, actually. It's incredibly difficult. But the thing is that that'll only be my goal until I achieve it. And then my new goal will be harder. You know what I'm saying? So for me, as I said, it's a lifestyle. And the main thing that I've learned is that your ability to go the distance with all that, especially when it comes to the dry fast, has a couple of super big factors. Actually, 3 huge factors. One factor, especially with the dry fast, is your level of purity, your level of purification. In order to refrain from water, you need to first refrain from anything that dehydrates you, such as caffeine, so on and so forth, right? Then you want to be able to refrain from eating for a long time. So that means that you need to be adapted to using fat as your primary energy source, right? Because that's what you'll be using, when you're fasting, right? And thirdly is that you need, or in my opinion, I need to focus on extremely nutrient-dense foods. And there's a correlation between longevity and the denseness of your nutrition. So, there's a thing which I'm not a doctor, but I personally consider the concept that we are supposed to have roughage and fiber and all this crap in our diet to bulk up stuff. I personally consider that to be horrible advice and horrible falseness. That's just for my own personal purposes. I'm not trying to challenge the entire medical and nutrition, industry and doctors and whatever, all that. But personally, I think that what you need, or like the better way to go about nutrition in general, is to eat as little as possible that is extremely high in nutrition, meaning lots of fat, lots of vitamins, lots of protein. And while you do need sugar in your diet, carbohydrates are essential part of your thing, there's something called glycogen. This is stored sugar inside your body. It stores in your liver and your muscles, right? But for me personally, I never, and at the point when you fill up your glycogen stores completely is when you begin converting into fat instead of glycogen. You know what I'm saying? Like first you eat sugars, carbohydrates, whatever, it starts building up glycogen. Glycogen helps you stay hydrated as well, because glycogen is a chain of sugars attached to a water molecule. So at the base of your chain of glycogen is water, right? But it changes your whole, whatever you call it, your whole energy cycle changes and adapts at the point when you have to start turning sugar into fat. And so you should always be deficient in sugar to the point that it's not in your diet, but it's your reserves aren't ever completely full to the point that it's turning into fat, right? And it's extremely important to realize that the fast is secondary to the refeed, even though it comes first. You have to fast first to refeed. That's why you're fasting. You fast, you detoxify, you empty out all your stores, and then you put only good things in. Because when you never fast, the toxins and everything never come out of your body. A lot of stuff never goes away. You know what I'm saying? Your fat cells just fucking hang around. They shrink, they expand, they shrink, they expand. But there's a little residue like always stuck in there. And you need to dry fast to get it out completely, because you need your body to start making its own water, and it does that by combining hydrogen and oxygen. Well, where does it get the hydrogen? It gets the hydrogen from fat. And it destroys the cell. So very important is when you break a fast, you always break with sugar. Okay? And fat. You know what I'm saying? Protein is secondary, because you can uh, continue with your autophagy, which is still a cellular cleanup, even while after breaking your fast by stretching it with zero protein for a little while. But you also want your body to adapt and to first realize that sugar is available and fat's available, so that you don't accidentally trigger another adaptation where your body can turn protein into fat, protein into sugar, right? And that's when you will get like muscle wasting, and really bad stuff can happen in that situation. So you never want to break with protein. However, it is good to avoid sugar before going into the fast and to have high protein going into your fast, because you want to fill up what's called your amino acid pool, which is free amino acids that are flowing through your body, through your bloodstream, to be picked up wherever they needed for different purposes, to create peptides, to create muscle, to do all kinds of stuff, right? So you want that pool well stocked. You want to have really super adequate amino acids. Now, if you want to take it a step further, you can also like target certain amino acids depending on what part of your body you want to benefit the most, because when you go into a super fasted state, your hormones are also going to change a lot. And one of the changes is that your human growth hormone, which is a healing hormone, is going to spike super high, because it wants to optimize you. Your body wants to optimize you to be able to find food, to be able to hunt. So you'll get an opportunity to have this really high level of human growth hormone, which heals you. And it does that by signaling your body to use its amino acid stores, its amino acids to, create proteins for yourself. So, the fasting thing is like, it's a science, but above all things, more than anything you should learn from listening to me or reading or whatever, is that you should learn to listen to your body and try to see how it makes you feel. To start fasting on, different, like the main thing, is though, aside, like your basic level of fasting, like it shouldn't even really be considered a fast, is that you need to spend several hours a day hungry, where your stomach feels like it's hungry, where you feel like you want food and you don't eat. That is like a short version of a fast. And especially you want that before bed, because the hormone or peptide or whatever that makes you feel hungry is called ghrelin. Well, ghrelin is a agonist to another peptide called I forgot what it's called, but I guess the name doesn't really matter. There's another one which signal that tells your pituitary not to release human growth hormone. And so the ghrelin suppresses the one that tells your pituitary not to release, and then when you go to sleep, if that hormone's not present, then you get a stronger pulse of growth hormones when you're sleeping, and so on and so forth. Anyways, I might have, yeah, hopefully I said that. What is that? It's going to bother me that I can't remember that other hormone, but, or peptide. But anyways, it's the thing. And then Noy says, what would you choose if what's in your mind doesn't match what's in your heart? That's a good question. If what's in my mind doesn't match what's in my heart, I would choose neither. I would instead choose to allow the universe to guide me and push me in whatever direction that it's going. I would try to make myself more receptive, both in head and heart. And, allow the shepherd to guide me. You know what I'm saying? You can, there's a lot of wisdom in taking the path of least resistance. Be like water. Go where your energy flows. You know what I'm saying? Both head and heart can confuse you. And let's not also mistake, taking the path of least resistance as doing whatever is easiest or less painful. As Bruce Lee says, water can flow or it can crash. But what we don't want is to let it become ice. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to be rigid. You know what I'm saying? Because when we become rigid, we break. We can shatter into 1,000,000 pieces. And so as long as we remain liquid and fluid, you know what I'm saying, we can flow or crash as we need. But, there's a lot of reasons why in spirituality we often compare ourselves to water, and we must not be afraid of the low places, because this is where water likes to collect. You know what I'm saying? And if you're already in that place where you're receiving from the universe and you're in a state of receptance, then by finding comfort in that low place, you can allow other energies, other people, things, experiences, opportunities, insights, so on and so forth, to make its way back to you. And we can collect until we become, you know what I'm saying, something with more weight, something that can flow. You know what I'm saying? Because a droplet of water can cling, right? Can cling to things. You might just see one sticking right on the side of a wall. You know what I mean? It's not going anywhere. It's just, boop, it's there. But if we add another drop, what happens? It starts to flow. So, take the path of least resistance, gather your strength, and, a story comes to mind, right? I've posted this on Instagram before, or reposted it. But I'm going to get this totally wrong, but essentially there was a student of a great spiritual master, a samurai or something like that. And he gives him two options. He said, option one basically ends in him, the master, beating the student with the stick. He has a stick, and he says, if you do this, I will beat you with this stick. But if you do this instead, I will beat you with this stick. And so the student reaches out, takes the stick, and breaks it. Right? You can do a search. You'll be able to find the exact story, right? Online somewhere. And so, the moral of the story is that if you have two options and neither one suits you, fucking break the stick. You know what I'm saying? Get rid of both options. You know what I mean? It's the double bind. The only way out of it is neither. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if that was a good answer to your question, but I tried. I did my best. And I hope whatever you're experiencing works out. To be honest, I will manifest that for you. Jennifer Ann says, regarding the cosmic flow, I think in the past I have struggled with accepting this because sometimes it is hard to determine when we should persevere to the victor go the stories and accepting the universe. Well, it also just depends on what your definition of spoils are. You know, to be king is to have problems. You know what I'm saying? To be king is to have enemies. To be king is to have plotters and, you know, all kinds of trials and tribulations. You know what I mean? To be king is to have stress. To be king is to worry that every meal has been poisoned. You know, to be king is to worry that your own son might plot your murder because they want to take your throne. You know, to be king is to go to war. To be king is to, you know, do so many things. And so many people want to be king. But, you know, the hermit in nature, just simply enjoying the birds and the bees and the flow of the river and, you know, watching the seasons go by and so on and so forth. It's a stress-free life. You know what I'm saying? He can easily go with the flow. You know, he doesn't have any commitments. He doesn't have anyone plotting against him. He doesn't have, you know, the stress of, you know, dealing with this or that or whatever. You know what I mean? So, it really just depends on, you know, what kind of game are you trying to play? This is a big game. It's a big fucking game. It's a very serious game because it's the only fucking game in town. You know what I mean? And everybody's watching. You don't realize that you're famous beyond any comprehension that you could possibly have. You know what I mean? That you yourself are watching you yourself along with every immortal soul that you will spend the rest of all eternity with is all watching. You know, and the thing, as I mentioned in the last stream, is that that's what makes you brave, because you came here knowing that you were going to humiliate yourself over and over and over again. But the self that you're humiliating is your false self. People think that spirituality is all this, you know, one thing, you know, it's all love and light and da-da-da, but it's a series of small humiliations of the false self, of the ego. That's what it's all about. You know what I'm saying? Is you realizing that who you thought you were, you are not, and that everything you thought you knew was wrong. And the more you learn and the more in touch with reality that you become, the more you also realize that you will never actually know. And even if you do know, you will doubt the truth yourself until the day that you actually die. You know, and only then will that last little bit of reality sink in. And so that's why death itself is the greatest truth. It's the only truth. Because everything else is just a humiliation. Their friend continues and says, well, I still struggle with this a bit and less, but I do think we are responsible to cause or cultivate this life we want to a degree. Live with intention. Thoughts? You can do whatever you want. It's not for me to tell you what to do. It's your game. You came to play. Your immortal peers are watching. You are the one that's going to judge yourself in the end. You know what I mean? Judgment day will come, but you will be the judge. But it will be the you that remembers every one of your thousands of lives that you ever lived. Every good thing you ever did, every bad thing you ever did, every fucking thing you ever did out of fear, everything you ever did out of pride, everything you ever did out of love, everything you ever did in humility, everything you ever did, for honor, for lust, for whatever, guilt. You will judge. So it's up to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, my personal philosophy that I hold myself to is that the only thing which guarantees that nothing bad will happen is nothing. Do nothing and you do no wrong. That's my my philosophy. We can easily look at Jesus. We can look at the Prophet Muhammad. How many wars have been fought behind these amazing words and these amazing intentions and these amazing deeds that these people did? How many people have died? How many people have suffered? So you can have the absolute purest intention. You can have the absolute, you can try to cultivate the life that not only you want, but the world that you think that it should be. But over the course of time, over the course of eternity, look what happens. But the hermit in the woods that did nothing but ate, consumed as little as possible, lived by the land, made sure that his little piece of life was as inobtrusive and obscure as possible. In 1,000 years or 2,000 years, what will have happened because of his life? Will he have created some big wars, some horrible things? You know what I'm saying? Will anyone twist and turn his words? Does anyone twist and turn the words of a man that never speaks? Does anyone misunderstand the intentions of the good deeds of the man that does nothing? The man that never talks can do no wrong. The man that does nothing, or the man that never talks and never acts, does no wrong. You know what I'm saying? Even to say that inaction can be evil is only if you were involved in something to begin with. If you were never involved in something, if you were never around anything, if you were unconscious and unaware of something, then does it even exist? How do you do wrong then? You know what I'm saying? And that's some pretty, some pretty crazy words that just came out of my mouth for a guy that's literally on the internet right now, talking to the whole world, giving the whole world the ability to listen and whatever to a scene. But the thing is that I've already done so much in my life that all I can think to do to balance it out is to share this perspective and hope that some other people that have the ability to change the course of history and everything someday hear this, and instead of doing something, they choose nothing. But I don't have any guarantee of how that's going to work out. And when the show is over, it's going to be me who's judged myself. But the thing is that for me, the show already is over. I already did judge myself, you know, and that's why I was able to release my karma. And that's why I'm able to say things like this and to also choose the life that I'm living now when I'm literally drowning in opportunity. So many things I can do. I can, you know, go pluck my eyebrows and cut my hair and get back to work, and I can invest that money, and I can, you know, make new businesses, and I can sell self-help shit and whatever, fucking teach people how to be better lovers and blah, 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 blah. I can do a bunch of shit. But I know that in some cases, actually in all cases, that anything that I choose to do like that is forceful and against the natural flow of existence and outside of myself will eventually go wrong. You know what I'm saying? And the greater the deed, the more it will be, the greater the effect. And the greater the effect, the more that the universe and life and everything will have to work to balance. Because it's never gonna be a symmetry. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like a balance will be achieved, but through how much suffering, you know? And it's a pretty interesting and ironic situation, because all suffering is rooted in desire for wanting something, to think that you're responsible for cultivating something that you want or that you think is right, that it's your opinion, right? But that's all desire, and all desire leads to suffering. But is suffering bad? Because suffering is the thing that brings us closer to liberation. Suffering is the thing that frees us. So it's a very interesting paradox that all desire leads to suffering and all suffering leads to greatness. Suffering leads to the divine. So you just have to ask yourself, how much suffering are you willing to endure, and at what cost? Are you willing to put things into and through spirituality you can enhance that to the point that it becomes something that you're actually aware of. Raphael says, to have such a high position as a king comes with just as many downsides. Yeah, that's what I was saying. So how to maintain and stay liquid? Well, it's like I said, to flow. You just, you know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta flow and you gotta have weight. You know, without mass, you can't flow. So, you know, you have to you gotta try to draw your power to you. You know what I'm saying? Consolidate yourself. You know, sometimes we get scattered. We spread ourselves too thin, become a mist, you know, a light sprinkle. But if we can pull all those droplets in together, we can create weight. And with weight, we can flow. With weight, we can move like the ocean. You know what I'm saying? We can have waves. You know what I mean? And then you just ride the wave, you know? Or you see a path and you take the path. You become like a river. You know what I mean? But you have to have some mass. Otherwise, you just get stuck, you know? And even if you and then if you have mass, you need a little energy. You need a little bit of heat. You know what I'm saying? But not too much heat. You know what I'm saying? Because, you don't want to boil over. You can't see yourself in boiling water, right? And it says, I will always suffer from too much cortisol, even though when I achieve my goal to work as a full-time artist, I am stressed because I thrive for perspection in my art, my eyes and my art. Well, you got to be careful. The words are very powerful. Every cell of your body was probably just inundated with cortisol simply from you writing that. You know what I'm saying? Now your body, your body and your mind are one. Your body has just been convinced that it will always suffer from too much cortisol. So, you gotta also kind of babysit your mentality. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that was an ego-based comment because only your ego thinks that it knows what your body will always do. You know what I'm saying? Your spiritual self, your intuitive self knows that anything is possible and that it's only your ability to influence reality that, makes one thing or another true. No need to apologize, Noya. It's an amazing question. You drove a lot of conversation. Jennifer says, any spoils, whatever it is, anything from life to spiritual growth. Example, the salmon must fight the stream or we wouldn't have them. When to fight and when to accept. Well, I mean, if your body is, salmon also die at the top of the river. You know what I'm saying? So, if you are, ready for, if something is so important to you that you're willing to die for it, then it's a worthy fight. You know what I'm saying? And that you know what I'm saying? You let your intuition guide you there and, choose what to do there. You know what I'm saying? It's really just a personal thing. Like, there's no mistakes. Everything is for a reason. It's just, and all things will be achieved. You know what I'm saying? Nature doesn't rush, and yet it's perfect. So if you were born to swim upriver, then swim upriver. But even without swimming, even without being alive, their body makes its way back to the ocean if it's not eaten somewhere along the way. So, there's a lot to that analogy. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't try to achieve anything that you want, that you should just sit on your hands or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You got to flow, but you just have to be willing. You just got to ask you. Everything's about sacrifice. How much are you willing to sacrifice? If you're willing to sacrifice your life for the fight, then that's something that you do from a position of, I guess, knowing, from a position of, I guess, trust in your intuition, and from a position of love, you know? Jennifer says, I definitely wish you to do what makes you happy, to be free. And exactly, that's what it is. It's just, it's, you know, it's really just depends, you know, a lot of stuff is just, what is your version of freedom and how much does it matter to you? You know what I mean? Sad, you know, the salmon is keeping its species alive when it makes the river, swim up the river. It's doing that so that its babies are not, you know, and its eggs are in a place with, you know, less predators and so on and so forth. You know, it's following its natural course. We as humans tend to be really focused on things which we created, like money, and things which we can consume, like everything that we do around us. And most people, not all, but most people do this completely and totally unconsciously. You know what I mean? They use a plastic, you know, they use a paper cup from Starbucks without thinking about being conscious, or without being aware or consciously aware of the plastics and shit that they're consuming in their body, or where that plastic came from, or the damage that creating that plastic did to the environment, so on and so forth. They drive their Tesla car without thinking about, you know, the lithium, where the lithium came from. You know, it's just, you know, they burn up some gas without thinking about the gas. They, you know what I mean? They do everything completely unconsciously. You know what I mean? Like, so it's just really, it's just how much weight do you want to hold into the construct, you know? Oh, is it lagging? See you guys in the next chat. I thought that maybe it was. Hopefully the recording is okay, because I did a lot of talking there. But anyways, I'll log off. Much love, you guys. Hope we'll see what happens with the recording. Peace.